this is what I would say. Life is too short to waste valuable time just because someone is hot. Because this is what we do, right? We go, we're not aligned.
Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. Whether you're searching for the one, you're madly in love, or simply curious about romantic relationships, this podcast is for you. I'm Charlene Byars. Each week, you'll hear from women, couples, and experts, and all the ins and outs on how to create your own love story. I am so passionate about this subject, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Welcome back to the Love Stories podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byars. Happy new week. I hope everyone is doing well. And if you are on social media and you're not following me, I would love for you to start following me. I'm all over social media. I actually spend a lot of time on Instagram daily. And if you follow me, it's MS Charlene Byars. MsCharleneByars. You can also follow me on Facebook, which is the same as my Instagram handle. You can follow me on YouTube, which is the Love Stories Podcast with Charlene Byars. I'm also on TikTok and LinkedIn. I'll make sure that the links are in the show notes because I would love for you to give me a follow. I share daily tips and free resources about what's going on in my world with everyone, and I love being connected with you. Also, if you ever have something you would like to know or you have a question, you can send me a direct message or you can email me at charlene@charlenebyars.com. I would love to hear from you. Let's talk about the tip of the week, which is relationships should feel easy. Easy like Sunday morning. Yes, I'm serious here. And what I actually mean by that is life is hard. And relationships should be a place where you come for comfort, partnership, respect, love, connection, intimacy, fun, and growing together and learning together. It's truly being married to your best friend for the rest of your life. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be conflict or growth. Of course there will be. But with your person, there should be understanding, patience, compassion, communication, connection, feeling safe, physical touch, saying, I'm sorry, forgive and forget, and like so much more. It should feel easy, natural. And we should not be afraid to have hard conversations and be real with one another. Realize that even great relationships have disagreements. That's how you grow. But that's how you learn about each other's needs. And that's how you continue respecting each other. By keeping it light, laughing things off. You don't always have to be so intense. Easy peasy, buttercup. Keep it fun. Relationships should enhance your life, not detract from it. I am thrilled to welcome our next guest to the show today. Ladies, I am so excited. I have such a treat for you. Matt Hall is a Guinness World Record holder, serial entrepreneur, host of the top charted podcast, Success School, and a high-performance mindset and business coach. Currently, he's making waves on E4's brand new reality show, Love Triangle, and is already known as contributing as a lunchmate panelist on Channel 4, Steph's Packed Lunch. I was so excited to talk to Matt. First off, he's a great guy, and I loved hearing from a secure, kind, masculine man who has experienced being on a reality love show, and through trial and error, he has learned how to treat women and learned about dating in this modern world. As a man with his perspective, his stories, and his great advice for women, it's so good. This conversation was jam-packed and a must listen to. Make sure to share it with other women you know. Without any further ado, Matt Hall. Well, hello, Matt. Oh my goodness. I have on today. I am so excited. I think this is the first time, and I know we were just chatting about this, but this is the first time I have like a single man, and I'm so excited to hear your perspective. And not only that, Mr. Love Triangle, that you're on this reality show, which I can't wait to hear all about that. But I was thinking, like, what am I going to start with today? Like, what am I going to ask you and how I'm going to start? Because I want to have a real great conversation about love and your journey, all the things. But do you right now, and I know they don't know what happened on the show, but do you still believe in love?
What a question. I love that question. And the answer is 100% yes. And I think it's really important that we all do because life is going to challenge us. It's going to send us those curveballs. And it's kind of like you think your life's meant to go one way and sometimes it just doesn't. But I think the belief in love and in giving and receiving love is such an important part of being human. So I would like to confidently, strongly say I will always believe in love.
Oh,
Yes.
I love that. And I guess I wanted to start out and have a little fun with that one, but that is amazing because I know I haven't really known your journey. So what I
Sure.
know about you is, I know that you were on a reality TV show called Love Triangle and going, I would think, looking for love. But how was it? Let's take me back. How
Mm.
has it been for you before even the show even came about? What was life for you, back in the day when you were a little younger and you are a man, looking for love? And what did you used to think about before all of this? Like, were you thinking a man that I want to get married, I want to find love? Or were you more like Mr. Bachelor? What was your journey like?
I think for me growing up, I was really fortunate that my parents, they raised me in a really loving environment. So my parents, they only have one child and that is me, and they are still together. And so I just always knew love and that kind of traditional man and woman being married, having a child. So that is sort of my background with it. And so I guess that shapes how you approach love, right? And so I've always been searching for and wanting to be part of that kind of similar loving partnership. I was actually with someone for nearly 7 years from so from my early 20s to I think I was around about 27 when we broke up. Um, and that was a real pivotal moment in my life because I'd always just been like a relationship guy, like loyal and I think just saw myself probably like late 20s getting married, having children. And then the reality was, I'm late 20s, I'm completely single. I've now got to go into the dating world, which like the last time I was in the dating world, I was like 19, 20. And obviously, in that time, there's now dating apps and there's this whole new thing to explore. And actually, I found it really challenging. And then that led to like lots of like 1 year relationships and things like that. So I just got to the point where I was kind of really losing confidence with dating and losing confidence with relationships and wasn't sure like how to have a relationship in this modern world. And then in pops a DM on my Instagram offering me the opportunity to apply for a reality show. And I was just kind of like, well, nothing else seems to be working that well. So let's give it a try. And that's what led me to do the show last year.
That's how you did the show. Okay, so then well let's take that back then. So you definitely grew up seeing your parents have an amazing relationship. So for you, you're like, okay, this is cool. I have
Mm.
my parents, they seem in love. So I definitely, you would think, okay, maybe it's not going to be that hard. Maybe it is. Who knows, right? Who knows? Then you get yourself in this 7-year relationship.
Right.
And like, I mean, you can tell me how whatever, but the relationship obviously ended. What happened? Was it mutual or was it one or the other?
So the girl that I was with, like, did some pretty terrible things towards the end. One of which being that she'd been cheating for a while, and I found that out. So I was massively betrayed, and initially my gut instinct was, let's try and work at this. Like, let's figure out why this has happened. I was like, let's get some therapy, maybe. But ultimately, she didn't want to work at it. So then they became the acceptance that this is done then. But I think one thing that I've come to learn is it's very easy for anybody in a relationship, man or woman. I think when you've been hurt or when you've been cheated on or done wrong to, it's very easy to be a victim. And let me be clear when I say this, some people genuinely are, and some people do not deserve what happens. And I don't think anybody ever deserves to be cheated on. But I also think there's another side of it, which is going, but what could I have done better? And where can I learn about maybe, what might have prompted her to do some of the things she did? And one of the things that I reflected on is I've always been like a really ambitious man. I set up my first business when I was just 19 years old. I've always been very career focused. And it gave me the opportunity to reflect and go, do you know what? As I look back, there were times where I wasn't completely present with her. And she would say, "Oh, I want you to spend tonight with me." And I'd be like, "Oh, but I've got something at work, babe. Like, I'll make it up to you." And that was a really important lesson for me to learn, was actually, where did I go wrong? Ultimately, like, she was pretty horrible towards the end with some of the things she did, and it really hurt me. And it did really hurt me. And then equally, as time moves on and you take that opportunity to reflect, that was where I could have been better in the relationship. And
Oh man, I love that you said that. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I love
cool.
that you said that, because what a really awesome perspective. Because I'm not saying at all like cheating's cool. No, 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 no. That's not cool. You guys, that's just not cool. But I have realized too that once sometimes that happens, sometimes it does, the other person just has bad intentions and they just do it.
Right.
Okay. There's sometimes
Right.
the actual other person is like,
Mm.
I was cool. I don't know what happened. But the majority of the time, this is cool that you
Right.
have this perspective, but the majority of the time, it does take two people to have a relationship. And it gets to a point, it's like, where was I missing the signs? Was she communicating with me? Was she already having, this issue that I wasn't available? And being able to now look back and say, okay, yeah, that was not cool that she cheated on me, but where did I play a part?
Right.
That's
And that's
really
yeah, and I think it's so important for all of us to reflect on that. It's very easy to just look at where we've been wronged. But what is often harder, but equally more powerful, is figuring out what part could I have played better. And one of the things that I sort of started to learn, because then, like, since that relationship, I have like wanted to learn more about relationships and so on, is kind of the communication differences generally between like men and women and how we communicate. And kind of for me as a guy, I was like, listen, I'm out there being ambitious and I'm trying to achieve these goals for us, right? I'm trying to do it for us. When actually, a lot of the time, what I've learned is like, women just want to know that even if it's not a lot of time you spend with them, that the time you do spend with them, they feel appreciated, they feel heard, they feel that presence. And that is something I often wasn't doing, right? And that's been such a like tough pill to swallow, as they say, and like, but such a great lesson that I now am aware of, which is so important.
Oh, I can imagine. But I want to know too, though, like, how did that affect you in the sense of when once that relationship ended? And I never know, you already said this a little bit earlier on, how you realized, wow, the dating scene is different. I haven't been in this dating scene for a while. Like, how did you go out and about? Because I'm sure there had to been some, like, you were hurt. You were like, I don't know if I could trust a woman again. Where was your mindset when it came to that?
Yeah, it wasn't great at times. Definitely I started to have trust issues and that fear of, if I'm going to invest time and energy into somebody and allow myself to like develop feelings for a woman, that who's to say it won't happen again? But I really think it's important that, I think I heard a quote and I don't know how accurate it was, or how it was said, but it was something along the lines of, love is allowing yourself to get hurt, but hoping you won't. And I thought that was so powerful. Like, it's allowing yourself to be truly vulnerable, share every aspect of yourself and put yourself in a position where you can get hurt again, but it's trusting and believing and hoping that you won't. And equally knowing that you'll be strong enough to get over it if it does happen again. And I think that's something I had to recognize, is you've got to put yourself out there. You can't allow negative past traumas and experiences to keep on holding you back from the present. That said, the dating space was now online, which I wasn't like. Obviously, we had social media and stuff like that, but dating apps wasn't really a thing. So suddenly being in this world of swiping and it all being very much based predominantly on looks and like that split second decision of, do I fancy them? I found that whole thing really, really tough to navigate, really overwhelming, and not generally that positive, to be honest.
No, that's a good perspective. I just had a conversation. I have a 32-year-old son. And 2 days ago, we were out to lunch, and he was telling me, he's like, "Mom, I need to say something to you." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "The dating apps are not for the guys. It is
Mm.
hard." So he tried to explain to me, he's like, "Mom, if you are not like a 10 in a man, if you're he started talking to me like levels. He's like, "You have to be like a 10. Even if you're a woman that you're a 5, he's like, even the 5s are looking for 10. He said, to me now, he goes, it was so disappointing and it was so hard for men, me. He's like, and I said, Josh, what do you consider yourself to be? He's like, Mom, I'm an average guy. I consider myself to be, let's say, a 7.5, 8. He's like, but I have a lot to offer. He said, but the expectations of women these days, he said, it's so off the chart. He said, they're all looking, for, tall, dark, and handsome, rich, all the things. He goes, it's just been so discouraging. He goes, I haven't had the best of luck. And he goes, and I just feel like, the women that are on the dating apps, they have such an advantage. So when you were on the dating apps, is that what you started feeling like? Or did you start feeling like, again, the women were not trustworthy, or they were just not reciprocating?
I think definitely I felt a level of truth in what your son's saying there. I think when you actually start to talk to women in person, most of them don't really value that sort of stuff. But equally, when they're in that environment, which is just make a split second decision and all you can really see is a couple of pictures and a small bio, it's hard not to view people like that on the apps, I think. And I also think what doesn't help is the addition of social media, where we're constantly inundated with unrealistic expectations of what somebody should look like. Then we've got things like reality dating shows that kind of push this narrative of like, if you don't like that person, or there's one thing, let's say, or one small thing that they call it the ick, right? If you start to get the ick, we'll just go to the next person. There's another option. There's another option. So I think like culturally, societally, we are kind of pushing this thing of have really, really high expectations. Men need to be 6 foot plus, women need to be slim, and all these things that actually 90+% of us are not those things. And actually, I think 90+% of us don't really want it. We just think we want it. And when we get to know someone on a deep level, we recognize none of that stuff really matters beyond maybe it adds to sexual attraction for some people sometimes. But actually, there's so much more to value when it comes to a meaning, loving relationship. But I don't think the apps are designed to push that. And that's what makes us fall into that trap of valuing perhaps the wrong stuff, right?
Right. How did you get through that? Like, I mean, did you have so you're on these dating apps, and let's just say in general, because I asked my son this question too, and I want to ask you this question. When you're on the dating app, and let's say you do match with someone,
Yep.
as a man, do you feel like, okay, I'm going to try to get to know her on the dating app, or I'm going to immediately, see her in person? Like, what was your experience like?
I think trying to meet each other early is a positive thing to do. I think that it's a hard line to kind of sort of follow as a guy, and presumably there's similarities for women as well, which is you feel that you want to get your personality across, you want to make sure that you're fun, but you want to show that you're not just stupid, that you have got more to offer than that on a deeper level. But then you don't want to put someone off by being too deep too quick. You also want to make sure you don't get friend zone, so you want to maybe hint at that sexual chemistry but not become creepy. I think guys and girls generally find knowing how to approach somebody really hard now. I think harder than ever. I spoke to a relationship expert called Paul C. Brunson. You may be familiar with him. He was great. And he said to me when I spoke to him that it's never been a harder time in history to find and keep love. Now, I think there's multiple reasons that contribute to that. But I do think one of them is that as much as the rise of the internet and social media and dating apps, as much as there's so many amazing things about it, there's also a consequence and a cost. And part of that consequence is there's so many options, there's such high expectations with filters and, people editing their pictures and so on, that it's actually making people just feel such pressure to try and adhere to these unrealistic expectations that people don't know how to talk to people anymore, and they struggle to know what to say. So I think part of the solution that I've recognized is getting out in the real world again. And it's about doing that inner work and going, what do I value? What do I enjoy? And then going, okay, what are my hobbies then? What are the things that I'm going to enjoy doing? And putting yourself in a position to actually meet people in real life where you can have genuine chemistry and exchange of energy that you just don't get writing messages on an app. So for me personally, I think the sooner you can meet up in person, the sooner you can recognize, if there is chemistry, and also you can practice what it's like to actually speak to a real person in this world where we're so stuck on our phones so often.
Oh, you're just literally speaking for men right now in general. That is so good you said that, because my son also just said that. He goes, Mom, I don't know how to explain this to you. He goes, I know you're a dating coach and everything like that and a relationship coach. He's like, but I feel like I have to go back to old school. I said, what's old school? He's like, in person. He's like, in person. He goes, it's really hard for guys, Mom. He's like, it's just really hard. He goes, and especially within the last 2 years. This is his perspective within the last 2 years. And he said, and I think, when it comes in person, he goes, and sometimes too, that can be very challenging. And one of the things I said to him, and I think you kind of touched on this, I said, Joshua, you know what? I think you have a point here. That I understand where you're coming from. But I also feel like for us to be able to meet people in person. Now, for an example, can you meet somebody anywhere? Yes. But the reality is it takes a little time, and you got to be in proximity. You have to be in proximity. And to be in proximity, what you said is like finding out like something that you enjoy, right? Like if you say, you love to hike. I mean, I said, Joshua, you have to go ahead and have like join a hiking club or something that you can be going on a regular basis to start to get to know people. Because I definitely think, Matt, like we have to change the conversation, because everything is all online. And I don't even think, like you said, that people don't even know what to do, or, in person. And you being the man, and usually, the man being the pursuer, right? I mean, how do you find that when you are out in the world, when it comes to, are women open or not so much? What has been your experience as a single man, nice looking man? You talk, you have a great personality, and you've, have been obviously trying to find someone.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting conversation, because as much as we've said there's a lot of challenges with dating apps, the positive of them is if you match with someone, then it means there is a connection, and also you're on the app very specifically because you want to find someone. So the intentions are set and the intentions are clear. Then when we head over to the real world, where you're going to meet someone traditionally in a more organic way, what I do think is a lot of guys, myself included, are finding it harder than ever to know how to approach women. Now, I think part of this has been because there's obviously a movement, rightly so, which is about like bringing awareness to where guys are disrespectful towards how they approach women, and obviously in extreme cases when we're talking about like sexual assault and things like that. So that there's a real positive thing within that movement, which is about bringing awareness. And then, as often happens with certain movements, is things then get taken to an extreme or get taken out of context. And then you start to see these things, these videos presenting themselves online and so on, which is like a guy would just approach a woman, let's say in the gym, just very innocently. And you see things like on TikTok or whatever, which is like, what a creep. And then, so I think the knock on effect of that is guys don't know what they're supposed to do, what they're allowed to say without being put in a bracket of that's creepy. And you get like a lot of, I've seen videos where women are like, when I'm in the gym, I don't want to talk to men, I'm there to train. And then you've got the counter narrative, which is like, where do I find women? I don't want to find them in a nightclub necessarily where people are drunk and they're there just for a good time. Actually, if I see someone in a gym or a fitness kind of environment, that's somebody that maybe has more aligned values, that they value health and they've got a proactive lifestyle. They're not just spending their weeks getting drunk in a nightclub. But then it's like, women don't want that. So I think it's really hard. And I also assume it's really hard, whatever your gender, navigating this whole dating scene in the modern world. I think it's complex. I think it's confusing. And I think part of the solution is having more open conversations like the one we're having now, where we can just break it down a little bit more.
No, Matt. Oh, yes. Because, Matt, I actually think it is actually harder for the man because I deal with a lot of single women. And I'm always trying to have these conversations with them and say, listen, this is the deal. A man will pursue you, but it doesn't matter how beautiful you are or whatever you are. If you are not open, if you are not also, giving them some type of sign, something, either it be a little, smile, a friendliness, because you can be the most beautiful woman. No man's going to want to come up to you. Seriously, no man's, because I really believe it takes both. So if you're a single lady, stop thinking that just because you're out and about, that a man just is out of nowhere is just going to come up. No, you are the one that also has to put in. It's a dance. It's a dance. It's not games. It's called a dance. And you're the ones that are going to have to let them know. There's this old way school thinking of back in the day. They call it dropping the handkerchief. And what this was about is a lot of men didn't even know, like, if she was available, not available. And so he wasn't, like you said, like the creepiness of it. Like he wasn't just going to, it's not like in the movies, right? Like not, like these movies give these crazy expectations. But how did a man know even to approach a woman? And what they used to do was the handkerchief thing. It was like, well, if I drop a handkerchief, then he knows that I'm interested in him. So I'm always saying we got to bring that drop the handkerchief back into the modern world. And the modern world is, because think about that, man. Like if you were, you see a woman, right? And she's already looking closed off. Why would you explain this to the women? Why would you as a man want to even go down that road if there's not any, a little bit of back and forth? Like I'm not telling women you have to go up to the man, but give him something, ladies, please.
100%. I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, bring back the handkerchiefs. However we do it in the modern world, slide in my DMs with a handkerchief emoji. Let's get a handkerchief emoji, whatever it is. But it's about having a sign. I think there's this narrative that guys generally they don't care and they'll just put themselves out there and they're happy to just have notches on the belt and just sleep with women. I think in reality, a small percent of guys are like that and they don't mind if they get rejected. They're like, oh, it's maybe just sex or whatever. But I actually think the vast majority of guys, like, they do fear rejection and they do worry about how they come across or if it's creepy or whatever. And so you're absolutely right. Like in my experience, it's that thing of, can you please give us a bit of a help? Like sometimes it's just that having that, like you say, it's a dance and it's a two-way thing. And I also think that for a lot of guys, I can't remember the exact study or statistics, but there was something like, I think it was like 80+% of women would like ideally a guy over 6 foot, even though, and it was something like only 10-15% of men are. So it's like this real off-balanced, unrealistic expectation. And as a guy that's under 6 foot, knowing that kind of stuff, there's also that thing of, well, I'm not even going to get a look in, so what's the point in trying? And I think a lot of guys do feel that way. And so again, I think it is that thing of both people playing their part in making it clear that I am interested. It's not a one-way street, and we've got to communicate that.
I think I totally agree with this because I think this, like I said earlier, I really believe with all my heart it is getting harder for the man because
Mm,
the mixed signals, the women are not understanding the journey of a man and what it actually takes. Because we're all like, we want him to pursue us, we want all this, we want all this. And I'm like, but what is he gonna do these days? Because and that's another thing. If a lot of women too, and again, it's not anybody's fault. I'm a woman. I'm not bashing anybody. It's just
mm,
it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
mm.
But now with these days, when I talk to men, what I noticed too, they said, "Listen, Charlene, a lot of women these days are like kind of closed off. Like they're not even open to the possibility because sometimes the love of your life." I don't know why I always go red hair. I said, ladies, sometimes the love of your life could be a red hair man. He doesn't have to be a dark hair or blonde hair man. It is
Yeah,
it's truly giving an opportunity to just loosen up a little bit. I think that's what's happening. We're too tight and just
yeah,
loosening up a little bit and not already thinking that the guy's gonna be a creep. Give the man an opportunity just to kind of have an offer or a
yeah.
conversation. But you notice that a lot of times you go out there and you're like looking at these women, you can't even get in, Matt.
Mm, mm,
We're like we're all like hound together. Was
yeah.
that kind of like the experience that you were having when you
Definitely.
were
And I
okay?
think there's a couple of great things that you're touching upon there about, and again, this is not necessarily gender specific, but just people in general being closed off and like high, barriers up, walls up, whatever you want to call it. And I think there's a couple of things we have to look at with that. And I think one is doing the self work. One of the reasons people have those barriers up, obviously, is because they've had, like I'd had, these negative past experiences where maybe you've been really hurt or cheated on, or maybe you was with someone who displayed narcissistic behavior. And it's very easy to then fall into this trap of being like, well, everybody's like that, or I'm scared to let my walls down in case that happens again. So I think that's one part that everybody listening to this, needs to reflect on is where do I need to work on my own well-being and healing my own traumas and whatever. But I also think another piece that you've just touched upon there is this thing of unrealistic expectations. And I've heard this from women and when you and guys in fairness, but when you break it down, it's like, yeah, like I want him to look a certain way, be a certain height, be really kind, caring, considerate, thoughtful, but also ambitious and hardworking and also, and it's like, what are you're literally looking for an alien. Like it's 0.01% of people. And I had a really interesting chat with a mate of mine, and I think he put it really well. It's like if you're looking for somebody to be a life partner long term, yes, it's great to have high standards and this idealistic view on what you want. But actually, I think what's more useful is take it back a step and go, okay, what are the things that are absolute non-negotiables? Like we need to have an aligned vision and maybe the same values, whether that's honesty and integrity and things like that. Like they're non-negotiables. They are the must-haves. And I think bringing awareness to what the must-haves are is really important. And then it's what are the nice-to-haves? Like, okay, I might want her to have a certain size boobs or him to be a certain height, but actually that's nice to have. What is still something that I can work with, and it's not actually going to be an absolute, rather than it's 100% has to be that, it's kind of like, actually, that's not essential. It's not a must have. And I think we all need to do that, is recognize where we've created this Disney-esque, perfect, happily lives ever, kind of unrealistic viewpoint, this fairy tale viewpoint, I guess is what I'm saying, and actually root it in reality and go, that's lovely, but now let's get to reality. What actually matters? What is a non-negotiable? I would imagine it's that we treat each other with respect and love and give each other time and integrity and honesty. They're pretty bloody important. The other stuff, and don't get me wrong, sexual chemistry and attraction has to be there, of course. But it's like, what do you need to have sexual chemistry? And what I've often found as well, when you work at something with someone, it's not often really the image that is the biggest contributing factor to sexual chemistry. It's often much deeper when you look at like deep, meaningful sexual chemistry. It's that whole thing of we're connected, we're aligned, there's passion. It's not just, oh, he's 6'3", for example.
No, okay. love that you're going here because I want to say this to you. Now I want you to talk more about this. I tell women all the time. I said, you have to understand, just like how we fall in love, you have to understand how men fall in love. And
Mm,
women think that men fall in love based on the sex. And I said, no, that's actually the opposite. You know how a man falls in love? Based on how he feels about you. If
mm,
he feels also that he can be vulnerable with you, if he
mm.
feels that you accept him. Because often men are like so tired of other people trying to, change them and not accept them for who they are. And what really, and I want you to, piggyback on this if
Mm.
you feel different. But what I've noticed with men is they actually fall in love also with the acceptance, with the values that they have together, but how they feel about that woman when that woman completely falls in love for him.
100%. It's really interesting you say that. And obviously, I can't speak for every man on the planet. But as soon as you said that, I completely resonated that that is exactly how I feel. Now, don't get me wrong. I think initially, when you see someone who physically you're attracted to, you can be like, oh my God, she is well fit. She's amazing. And there is that sexual thing. What I found in my experience, and I've spoken to a few like guy mates about this, is sometimes that clouds the judgment. And once you've actually slept together, you realize that that was just a surface level thing, and there's nothing else to it. So I don't dispute that it's part of it is that initial wow, she looks amazing, and there's that desire to sleep with them. But actually, that is just a momentary thing, and it's a small part of it. The thing that really matters is how do I feel when I'm in her presence? And I know it's the same for women. That's what women, they want to feel heard. They want to feel like listened to, understood. They want to feel safe.
Safe. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, but actually, there's not, in my experience, there's not many differences between what a guy wants to feel. Like he wants to feel valued. He wants to feel heard and listened to and respected. And it's very, very similar. It isn't just the sex thing. That is, if anything, the smallest part, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's where we're having it wrong because I
Mm.
have so many conversations with women and they really don't understand that part. They don't understand. It's like, well, what are men looking for? And I
Mm.
said, so let's talk about that. They're always like, well, what are they looking for? And I'm like, honestly, they are truly, and I want you to speak on it. I'm just going to say from my experience, I said, they are truly looking for not only of course of you can't force attraction. They're looking for attraction, of course, 100%. And
Yeah.
attraction, and this is what I tell women too, Matt. I said, and what you think, because women talk to women, I said, what you think is attractive is not necessarily what men think attractive.
Mm.
Men have different eyes than us. Men have
Agreed.
different eyes, right? They have different eyes. So what a woman thinks, oh, I need this. I said, no, 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 no. You don't understand. Men actually have different eyes. And I said,
Mm.
but what a woman think is attractive is not necessarily what a man thinks attractive. But what I've noticed that men are definitely, they're all the same, like you just said, they are looking for to feel value, to
Yeah.
have, to feel respected, to feel like you don't want to change him. Like you
Mm.
just, you absolutely adore him for who he is.
Right.
And I said, so with women in general, that's the message that I'm trying to get out there. That's why I'm so excited you're here today because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to just speak for the men. You know what I mean? I know we're just not in generalization here,
Yeah.
but when it comes to what we're looking for, it really does come down to Matt, right? Like how you want to feel. And it's both,
Right.
right?
Let's just break the myth now of men, like men wanting sex, because I'm aware from women I've spoken to that often they can be really frustrated on the dating apps and so on, that they find men make it very sexual very quick. They'll often give me stories of, oh, they just sent a picture of their penis very early on and it's not attractive.
Gross.
It's not
No,
what we want.
no.
Right.
No,
But let's
right.
break down the why.
Okay.
Why
Let's
I
break down the
believe,
why.
yeah, why I believe guys do that is because they think that's what they're supposed to do. Because what you've just said there about, women think that men are just wanting sex and they're very sexual. As a guy, you then think, well, I'm not very manly if I don't display that behavior. And therefore, she might friend zone me because I'm not making it sexual. And it's what's expected is the guy to be the pursuer, the guy to be the person who makes it sexual. It's not necessarily that all guys are just wanting sex. It's they think that's expected of them. And I think that's a big part that women generally don't realize is what's going on there. So if the woman makes it clear like that they want something more meaningful and it's safe to, yeah, we can be cheeky, we can be fun, but I'm looking for something so much more meaningful and so much more deeper, I would imagine a high percent of guys, again, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, a high percent of guys will be like, oh, thank God, I don't need to send her a picture of my willy. Like, that wasn't what I was wanting to do anyway. I just thought I was supposed to. And I honestly think a lot of guys, that's how they feel. And, don't get me wrong, like I say, there's exceptions to the rule. And again, I've had it where girls have done the same thing and I've had pictures of boobs and stuff like that. So it does, the exception to the rule. But I think generally, the reason guys send those pictures is because they think it's what they're supposed to do.
It's what they're supposed to do. What about you then? Like what do you find attractive in a woman?
So I would say in my 20s, I fell into that trap of it being like I had a type, and it was generally blonde and it was kind of that Instagram-esque physical appearance. And then as I've grown and matured and had different experiences, like now I've dated so many different girls with so many different like physical appearance like types. And the thing now is it is about how you feel in the presence with that person. Like I've been in a relationship with a girl that physically looks incredible and she has like the whole Instagram following and all the rest of it. And I felt the whole time like she didn't truly want to be with me. I felt insecure the whole time. So in that kind of experience, that led me to go, ooh, you might see a girl look a certain way and think that's the relationship you want. But actually what it taught me is if you don't feel valued, respected, loved, then actually it's not how they look that is the main priority. It's how you feel and how you're made to feel. And it's about having that shared respect and that shared love. So for me now, I think we've mentioned it a couple of times, of course, like how someone looks is important to everybody. We all on some level value physical appearance and we all have different types and that's great. But the much bigger, more important part that I'm looking for is how do I feel when I'm in that person's presence?
Ladies, did you not hear that? Like literally that is coming from a single man's mouth. And that is truly, no, really, that is really what it comes down to. Both parties. Because you said to me earlier, you're on these dating apps and it was feeling like kind of shallow. It wasn't really working. And you were like, okay, this is kind of hard for a man, like how do I get that connection? And then, when you meet someone in person, they have all these expectations. And then all of a sudden, I'm wondering, you probably started kind of giving up like a little bit of hope, maybe, I don't know. And then this show happens. What happened here? Like how did you go from being a man, like we're in a relationship for 7 years and then seriously, and then, trying the dating apps and not really having the best of luck or going out. And then all of a sudden they contact you to do a show. First of all, tell everyone about the show a little bit so they can understand what we're talking about.
Okay, so the show is called Love Triangle. And I was at a point where I've been very much like into mindset and self-development and just working on being the best person I could be. And I felt like I got to a place where generally in my life, I was pretty confident in most areas. I felt like I was quite happy in most areas, apart from dating. I was like, when it comes to dating, I still find it hard. And I also felt, and I'm sure there'll be listeners that resonate with this, like the older you get, the harder it gets. Like the more you have previous quote unquote failures that it's hard to forget, and the more that you feel like, oh, I feel too old to have to go through the whole thing of meeting someone from scratch, getting to know each other, for it then to potentially not work out. So I was just getting to this place where I guess you would call it dating fatigue, and also just like just lacking a lot of confidence. The more I was having those failures, I guess. And then this show contacted me, and I just thought, practice what you preach, Matt. You always talk about, like, if something feels uncomfortable or there's an area that is a weakness or a struggle, you should lean into that and you should get out of your comfort zone. And I just thought, you know what? Why the heck not? Like, it's an opportunity to really challenge myself, to not only date someone, but do it on telly where everyone's going to have an opinion and watch it. But also, I know, yeah, that is a mad thing to get your head around. But also, it was it because people often say, like, you went on a reality show, Matt. Did you really expect to find love? And the honest answer is yeah, because the thing that appealed to me is you're going to have an expert matchmaker that's going to interview you about exactly what you're looking for, exactly what you bring to the table, and match you with, on paper, what should be your ideal type. Now, we were told the show was called Love Match, not Love Triangle.
Oh, okay. So you
So
were
that's
going, okay, they're gonna give me the love match. Oh my
right,
goodness.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and again, that's because it was a brand new show, so they had this working title. Like, obviously, they're trying to make a good TV show, but the way it was pitched to me sounded like a great opportunity to just give this a go. And what they said is they wanted to go down this route of seeing that if after the first date you actually move in together and live together, it was like a bit of a social experiment to see, can that really amplify the dating process when you put two people together who are a perfect match? So I'm kind of like, well, that sounds a little bit scary, but okay, why not? Let's try it. But obviously, the reality is it wasn't Love Match, it was Love Triangle. And what happened in the show is halfway through, they bring in another guy, they take me out.
Okay,
And
hold on. Slow this down.
yeah,
Oh my God, this is gonna get juicy. Hold on. Because now that everyone's be like, I watched the show. Okay, hold on. So you're going in there kind of like you already knew that they were going to find a match. Like, so when you guys already had that advantage, you had that
right,
advantage that there was a lot of things already by all the questioning and all the things that you guys had a lot in common. Right.
sure.
So then the next thing is now you guys obviously have to meet, and then there still has to be, regardless if you have everything on paper looks great, there still has
Yeah,
to be a little chemistry, right? You guys have to have an
right.
attraction towards one another. Okay.
And we did as well. We did. Yeah,
Okay. So you meet this. Okay. So they set you up. They do that hard work out of the way, like we were just talking about. It takes time to meet a person and date. Okay, cool. Then the next plus is they bring the girl and you're like, oh, I like the girl. So you had attraction to her, obviously, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. She had attraction to you. So this is good. So then you guys move in together. How long are we moving in together? Like until the other guy comes.
Well, we were just told you'll be filming for a month and there'll be like exciting challenges along the way. But I think it was actually after 10 days of living together. And I think it's important to give context because people be like, oh, it's only 10 days. But what you have to understand is whilst you're filming, you've got nothing else in your life. Like, you haven't got a job, you're not going to work, you're not seeing your friends, you're not seeing your family. You are literally, you've met this girl. I mean, if you get on really well with someone on a date, and it might be 2 or 3 hours, you know there's a connection. If you then spent another 2, 3 hours and another 2, we were doing 24 hours a day living together without anything else other than just filming, being in
Oh
each
yeah,
other's.
that's fast track. That is
Right,
definitely fast track. That's like
right.
you're really gonna get to understand someone, start getting to know them. Okay. That's a good perspective. And then what happens?
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
had that. So after about 10 days of that, and there was a couple of evenings, I think there was 2 evenings in that 10 days where we then got to go to these dinner parties where we met like the other couples and that kind of thing. But that was just like for an evening for however many hours. But we were literally, other than that, just living together, just me and her. So then after approximately 10 days, that's when they then say, right, twist. They're now bringing in another guy who's also her type on paper. And you are now going to be moved out into another house, have zero contact, and you don't know when you're coming back. And that was just like, oh my God.
How was okay? Oh, I would just die too. No, I cannot even imagine because in those 10 days, let's talk about those 10 days. In those 10 days, were you guys cool? Like you guys really, hitting it off with each other?
Yeah. Yeah. I was surprised how well we did get on. Um, and they kind of reached a point where Jazz, the girl I was with, after however many days, I can't remember exactly, but she started like saying like, I think I love you and stuff like that. And then eventually I started to say it back as well. And that's how intense it was being in that environment,
You
which is
guys are
mad.
falling in love.
Well, we thought we were. I
You
definitely don't
thought.
think we were. I think
Okay.
it was a product of the environment, because you've got to think that thing of we had nothing else and we've been told we're a perfect match and we had so much in common and the chemistry was there, and I just think it was the environment. I think in the real world we wouldn't have felt that way. But in that moment, yeah, that's where we were at kind of emotionally.
Okay, so now they move you out. Oh my goodness, great balls of fire. So now they move you out. Because
Yeah.
you're like in this bubble right now. Because you're like, hey,
Right.
this is my girl. We're in love. I think. I don't know. And they
Yeah.
move you out, and then what ends up happening? So you don't see her for how long?
About another 7 to 10 days it was roughly, where she's now living with another guy that is on paper her type. Yeah. And so we were then taken off to like a retreat, where we lived in a separate house and had zero contact with her. And then there was the whole reveal of like when we came back after the week or so, it was like, this is the first time you get to see her. Has she stayed faithful? Is she still in the same headspace when you left, or has she now completely turned? And I don't know. Maybe I should just say they need to watch it. People need to watch it to find out, because that was a massive moment. Like how things progressed, and then the final twist is then we lived together as a three, where she then had to make a final decision in the last episode. Absolutely bonkers.
Absolutely bonkers. You had two guys in the house, and you both are you both are obviously smitten with this her, right? I would think that the other guy probably was with her too. And now
Yeah,
and so ultimately this is brutal. And and then ultimately, oh my Matt. And then
yeah,
ultimately she gets to pick. Is that what ended up happening?
exactly that. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Oh my
So
goodness. Would you ever do on a show like this again?
no. Absolutely. I mean, look, I'd be open to TV again, but I think the thing with that show in particular is it was just like it was not what we thought we'd signed up to. And I think because of that, it was really tough mentally and emotionally going through that experience where there was those twists and turns, and you were living a lot of the time with such uncertainty, and it was hard. I actually found it harder than I would have thought I did, but I did genuinely really struggle filming that.
You did. What did
Mm.
you learn about yourself during this process?
I learned that when you're in a different environment, how much that impacts you. So I think had I gone through something similar, but had my friends, my family, my work life, my loved ones around me, I know I would have handled it a lot better. But when you're isolated from all of that, I learned that, and I think this is a lesson for life for everyone, is that we aren't as strong on our own, and that there's no shame in that. I think having the right people in your corner and having the right people around you is a massive part of being human, and there's no shame in that. So that was, I think, one of the biggest lessons. Pick the people around you wisely. Make sure you respect those people and engage with those people, because there'll be times where you need them and they need you, and you can really help each other. And in that environment, we was filming for over a month with no contact with our friends, our loved ones, and going through something really tough like that. It really highlighted to me how important those people are in those times.
Oh, that's awesome because I often think about this when we get to know someone, right? Like when we are really getting to know someone, it truly takes time. It does take time. And not only does it take time, kind of like what you just said, it takes time to get to know them. It takes time to see if you can rely on them. It takes time to see if you can trust on them. And something that's very, very important, and people don't understand this. I'm going to talk about this for a moment, is that when you are first meeting someone for the first time and you have that chemistry and you're getting to know them,
Yep.
um, like time can stop. We know that, right? We have a lot of chemicals happening in our bodies, and what I call it, and this is, this is all science, well, all the chemicals are happening in our bodies, and it actually shrinks our critical thinking. That's
Mm,
why, it does. This is, it actually shrinks our critical thinking. That's why not only to rely on our, ability to see who this person is, it's
yeah.
so important to get around their people. It's
Yeah.
so important to get around your people, because your people that love you and respect you, they can always have such a different sense of like, oh, something's not right here. Or, oh man, she's amazing. She's really into you. Because that's where we get blinded. That's where we get
Yeah.
blinded, right? That's where we get blinded. And I want you to talk about that in the sense of like, women listening today. So the majority of my audience are single ladies.
Mm.
And Matt, they are just, they're scratching their heads like, oh my goodness, it's hard. What are men looking for? What should I do? What advice would you give them? Just based on you being a single man, and you just had this crazy love triangle experience. What is it that you think that us women that we're not maybe seeing that can be more helpful, and that connection, connecting with the man?
I think it starts with getting clear on what do you actually want, first and foremost, before you even engage with anybody else. What do you want and what are you looking for? I think there's this notion of I need to feel a spark. And I think a lot of what I've come to understand about what the spark is quite often, or what a part of a spark is that thing of being kept on your toes of, does he want me? Doesn't he want me? He's not texting back. And it's actually quite a negative thing, but it's that thing of the lows are low, but then it makes the highs even higher. And so that constant guessing work and being up and down feels exciting. When you actually break it down, you just don't know where you stand with someone. You don't have certainty and you're confused. But then what we do is we label that as a spark and we see it as a positive. And I think actually when you break it down to what you really want, you want to feel that you've got certainty with, where you stand with somebody. What we spoke about earlier about you want to feel safe, you want to feel heard. So I think if you can get clear on what you want and you find that that's what you want, you find it's the polar opposite to what the quote unquote spark is. And now that you know that, how you approach and who you approach might shift slightly. And what I would say is once you get clear on what you are looking for, communicate that. Because as a guy, I want to know where I stand with the girl too. And if she comes to me openly and honestly goes, I'm not looking for one night stands. I'm not looking for guessing games or being childish or this chase thing. I'm actually looking for someone where I can build a life with. Where yeah, we can have playfulness, we can have fun, we can be cheeky, but we can also feel safe, secure. We know where we stand. We've got a level of certainty. Like if that's what you're looking for and you communicate that to a guy who's equally looking for that, then you're off to the races. It's going to work. I think where the problem happens, people are looking for that, but they don't communicate that. They communicate that they want the spark, they want to play games, they want it to have mystery. And the two are not aligned. You're going to then attract people that want to play games, that want to keep you guessing, that want to have mystery. And that's where you're going to have this quote unquote spark, which for a short period is exciting. And then as it progresses, becomes filled with anxiety, confusion, uncertainty. And then men get labeled as they're all bastards and arseholes and men are horrible. And actually, you were putting that out there, perhaps. You were looking for someone to keep you on your toes. So I think that's the thing. Get clear on what you actually want. And when you know what you want, communicate that. And if the guy doesn't want it, that's great. You were never going to work anyway. You weren't a match. Move on to the next one.
Oh, I wish I can give you a big hug right now because
I give you a virtual one.
No, right, yeah, because I love that you're saying this, because I just heard you say, and I do believe this with all my heart, that it actually is important that women are actually telling the men. Well, I'm not saying right in the beginning, but like in the beginning is really set that tone in the beginning. Just say, listen, I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time, because that's what people do. We waste so much time. You're not going to get to know somebody just asking them what's their favorite color. Seriously.
Yeah.
And men, I love that you said that men appreciate. They want to know what it is, because that's where you can know, okay, we are so not aligned here, because I was looking for this and this, and you're like looking to get married, have children, you
Right.
want to build a business or whatever that is. So what you're saying for the listeners to hear today, it's actually okay. It's okay to just tell them exactly what it is you're looking for, because men are not going to have, they can't read your mind. They
Right.
can't
And
guess.
this is what I would say. Life is too short to waste valuable time just because someone is hot. Because this is what we do, right? We go, we're not aligned. He clearly just wants one night stands, doesn't want kids or whatever it is. I actually want something meaningful and children and marriage, but oh, he's just so fit. So I'll just pretend I don't want that. And vice versa. I myself have done that where I've just really fancied a girl. And so I'll just kind of pretend I'm not looking for something serious. But and that's fine if you're happy to just maybe have a night or two or whatever that may be. But actually, if you're serious about a long-term, loving, serious relationship and you're not communicating that and the other person doesn't want it, like, don't waste another second, because whilst you're wasting time messing about with that person and being kept on your toes and all the rest of it, the person that actually might want what you want might end up getting away. But it's like we were saying right before we started recording, like, I just think these conversations are so needed for guys and for girls. So I really hope that just us having this chat today maybe just, I don't know, breaks down some myths and some confusion and just helps people leave with more clarity about what we really should be doing.
What we really should be doing, because I truly believe this, and this is what I say too. I tell women, I said, listen, the majority of men out there are actually good men. The majority are actually good men. And we really have to look at it that way, because stop believing, what you're hearing. Stop believing all the lies, because I feel like are there men out there that are not great? Are there jerks out there? Absolutely. But guess what? There's women that are not great and they're jerks too. It goes both ways. But the
Correct.
majority, I really believe that with all my heart. And it's really giving
I
someone
do.
an opportunity to already have that perspective that no, not all guys are toxic. Not all men are going to be serial killers. I mean, do
Yeah.
you know what? I mean, seriously, toxic. I can't take that anymore. I'm like, no, no, no. And when it comes to, again, masculinity and stuff, I said the majority of the men that are really wanting to step in that masculine and really wanting to pursue you ladies and really wanting that, it's us also allowing it. It's allowing it. It's
Right.
allowing it's allowing that to come in. It's allowing us to have, to relax, have a little bit of that vulnerability
Mhm.
too. I love what you just said earlier. Not only that, is it's okay. It's okay to actually tell somebody exactly
Mhm.
what you're looking for and not waste each other's time, because there's no point in that. I love that you actually said that. Don't waste time. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Get out there, meet different people, because I believe dating. Let me ask you this too, real quick. And I know I keep keeping you, but that's okay.
No,
Okay.
no.
I believe dating, one of the biggest gifts about dating is truly an opportunity to get to know somebody, to get to know different people. Because if you just think that you're gonna be one person and that's gonna be it, you're really giving yourself such a disadvantage. Like, calm down, relax, you know, put
Yeah.
yourself out there, get to know different personalities, get to know different men, and you'll know, like, if something's creepy, you're gonna know anyway, you're gonna be fine. But the only way that you can do that is kind of like exactly what you said. You have to do the work first
Right.
yourself, right? You
100%.
have to heal your past relationship patterns. Not all women, like, we're talking to Matt that he even said, he was in a 7-year relationship. And in those 7 years, the lady ended up stepping out. And that
Mm.
was obviously very devastating. And that really, shook you up, right? That I understand how that shook you up, but it doesn't mean that all women are going to cheat. It doesn't mean that that's always going to be your reality. If you keep thinking it is, you're absolutely right when you said, well, that's what's going to start coming back to you. Because
Yeah.
if you truly believe that, all men are jerks or all women are cheaters, what
Yeah.
do you think is going to start showing up in the universe for you?
Right. And there's so much I want to touch upon in all of that, because there's so much really important things. I think one thing that I really agree with you on is, generally, I truly believe most people are good people. There's exceptions to the rule, as with everything. But I think what happens in this day and age of social media and mainstream media is the most extreme ends of these kind of conversations. They're the one that we see the most of online. So you get a small percent of people that we then label toxic masculinity, and then we see loads of content about that, and then it kind of warps our perception of reality, and we think all men are toxic, and vice versa, and so on. So I think, actually, when you go out on the street, like 80 to 90, maybe more percent of people are good people. And I think it's about giving people a chance and knowing that also people get nervous or say silly things. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. I also think what you said about you've got to do the inner work and heal, I think that's really important. And a caveat that I would add to that is, you've got to be mindful that it can also be that, I believe, you can work together as a couple through those challenges. And the reason I say that is, what people can do is go, oh, I'm not ready for a relationship because I've still got more healing to do. I've still got more inner work to do, without realizing the inner work never ends. Like, up to death, we've still got growth to have. So I think we've also got to be careful of that, of, yes, do the inner work, be doing it now, but also don't keep thinking, oh, I'm still not ready, I'm still not ready, I'm still not ready. Because actually, it might be that for some of us, the growth will continue in that relationship, and that partnership can help us heal as well. And I think that's something to be mindful of.
Oh, that's beautiful, because that's exactly true. That's
Yeah,
exactly true,
yeah,
because there's no perfect anything. There's no perfect
right.
person. And when you do meet someone, and when you actually, kind of like listen to what we were kind of saying today, when you take your time and you're real with someone and you really get to know them, that's when it starts. That's when it starts. And when you have someone that you are actually doing that, have that relationship with, that's when you get to start seeing yourself differently. And that's when you get to apply the things that, you knew that, you had in the past that were working for you. And
Mm,
that's where you get each other room to grow, and space to grow, because
yeah,
that's really keeping it real. That is so keeping it real, because relationships are, yes, absolutely here to enhance your life, and relationships should be
right.
loving and kind. It's like being in a relationship with your best friend. But even with your best friend, we still grow, we still learn, we get to see ourselves. And so
Right.
don't think, exactly, Matt. Thank you for saying that. Don't think you're going to be like, you have to be perfect, because you ain't going to ever be perfect. Trust me.
I
And
think the key thing is, you don't have to be a completely, fully healed, perfect human being. I think what you have to be is a completely authentic, truthful human being that is working on being the best they can be. And when you get two people together like that, they might still have imperfections, they might still have obstacles to overcome and challenges, but when you're both being your authentic self and you're communicating that honestly and effectively, that's where the magic can happen, I believe.
oh, yes. Oh, that was so good. Okay. Okay. Hold on. First,
Yeah.
two questions. First of all, where can they get in your world? Like, if women were like, or anybody, or even men, they're like, wow, this guy's cool. I can learn from him. And women are like, oh, he's single. Hi. And I can learn from him too.
Yeah,
How
send
can
me
they?
the, what was it, the handkerchief emoji.
How can you,
Got that in the
ladies,
DM.
ladies? Yeah, he's adorable. Like, he's fabulous. How can they get into the world? How can they reach you? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
I think one of the main places that I show up daily and post content and things like that is on my Instagram. So if people come and give me a follow, it's Matt Hall official is like the handle. So just my name, Matt Hall official. That's Matt with a double T. And then obviously, as we were speaking about before, I have my own podcast show. The podcast is called Success School. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And we talk all things mindset, self-development. We do touch upon relationships quite regular, because as a single guy, it's obviously a topic I'm interested in and I want to learn from. And I get on different guest speakers and things like that, and have conversations very similar to this, really, which is at the heart of it, just figuring out life and focused on how can we live happy, healthy, and as fulfilled as possible.
Oh, fantastic. How I'm going to give you the last word. I'm going to give you the last word. I just want to know, like, how do you want to leave everyone listening today?
Wow, what a
That's a
question.
big that's a big yeah, I know. That's a big one, Matt, but that's okay. Whatever you wanna leave because like I said earlier, there's so many women out there, just like men, that are really feeling like, is love still available?
Mm,
They've had, these heartbreaks, they find out, they're not really having great like or great luck,
yep.
moving forward and finding relationships. So, I still believe it is, but I wanna see, what you wanna say about that.
Okay, well, I think following on from that point, then, what I would say is this: it's not easy, but put the effort into being in the present. And what I mean by that is stop living through your past experiences. It doesn't matter if you've had 50 relationships that haven't worked out. You might just be one away from the one that's going to work. And there's a quote that I heard, which is your past is a place of reference, not residence, meaning you don't live in the past, you live in now. So why do you keep repeating it in your mind as if it's happening now? And I think that's the main thing I would say to people is as long as you're alive right now, you've got air in your lungs, then you've got a beautiful opportunity of life. And nobody knows what's next. You could meet that incredible person. You could have the best days of your life might be still yet to happen. And I believe you should believe that to be true. You should go forward with that attitude and see every day, every moment as an opportunity, as a gift, and to keep believing that great things can happen.
Oh, wow. That was fantastic. Oh, Matt, thank you so much. This interview went so fast. I
Yeah.
really no, seriously, I just appreciate everything that you had to say today. Thank you so much for like all the love, all the authenticity. I really hope this resonated, and I absolutely think it resonated with so many people that are looking for love, that are single. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And ladies, follow him, get in his world, seriously, because he's amazing. Because what are you looking forward to? Because you're in the UK, right? Yeah. What do you have coming up, Matt?
Yeah, so I am based in the UK, and for me, I do loads of different stuff. But I think one of the main things is I love doing the podcast. I also have like a membership attached to that, where we've got this incredible community of people that are all focused on self development and being the best people they can be. So yeah, I just love that. I love meeting people. I love having these conversations. Like I've got an event coming up in the UK in a few weeks that I'm excited about doing. But at the heart of it, it's all just about bringing people together and navigating this weird, wonderful journey of life as best as we can and supporting each other, really.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a wrap. Wow. I absolutely loved my conversation with Matt and how genuine and authentic he is. I love hearing about his transformation and how he really started learning what it is that he wanted in a relationship and what women are looking for. Such a great perspective from a high value man. Thank you, Matt. If you're loving this podcast and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.